Hi there. So the Nintendo Switch launched last year, with 3 launch titles published by Nintendo. 1-2 Switch, which was bad, Breath of the Wild, which was great, and this weird co-op puzzle game called Snipperclips. No one really knew what the game was, what it was about, or whether it was any good. Well, 1.5 years later, I think it's safe to say that it is good, excellent even, one of Nintendo's best co-op multiplayer games. However, contrary to what most people might think, the game was not developed by Nintendo, or at least not solely. No, the credit for that goes to a small UK development studio named SFB Games, or Super Flash Bros. But how did this small studio go on to develop a launch title for one of the largest and most prestigious game companies in the world, who also happen to be located halfway across it? Well, let us find out as we delve into Snipperclips' development history. In the early 2000s, Flash games were all the rage, with a vibrant community centered around both playing and creating them. Among these creators were brothers Tom and Adam Vian, or as they were known online, the Super Flash Bros. They were early adopters of this new medium, starting all the way back in 2002 when they were only 14 and 17 respectively. Although they tried their hand at Flash cartoons, they quickly moved on to games where they really hit their stride. Although perhaps a little rough around the edges at first, their games began to garner somewhat of a sizable following on Newgrounds, the website where they were hosted. After taking a break while Tom attended university, the brothers doubled down on their game development, partnering with website Armor Games to develop games for their site. Some of their games from this period proved to be very successful online, such as Ace Attorney-inspired Detective Grimoire and my personal favourite, Haunted Puzzler Haunt the House. In 2010, the brothers decided to develop a sequel to Detective Grimoire, this sequel also being called Detective Grimoire. They wanted this project to be bigger and better than the games they had previously developed, so they decided to crowdfund it using Kickstarter. The campaign was successful, raising just under $30,000. This higher budget wasn't the only advantage that the game had either. Unlike their previous games, which were developed in a matter of months, this new game was in development from 2010 to 2014 for 4 years. During this period, the brothers decided to incorporate to help with financing, establishing the company SFB Games, SFB being an acronym for Super Flash Bros, their Newgrounds username. Progress on Detective Grimoire was fast, and it was set to become SFB Games' first game. However, it was beaten by none other than the sequel to Haunt the House, called Haunt the House Terror Town. I knew Haunt the House would come into this somehow. Yes, in 2013, Haunt the House Terror Town was released unto the world, and the following year, Detective Grimoire was too. Now, in early 2015, the brothers decided to set themselves somewhat of a challenge, to develop a game in only 8 hours. Kind of like a game jam, but it was just them participating. They made remarkable progress in this time, and after a few days of polishing, they ended up with this. Friend shapes. As you can see, the main characters have been designed, some of the puzzles were created, and crucially, the central mechanic of cutting your fellow character had been implemented. This early demo was developed in Flash, as it was what the brothers were most experienced in using, but they planned to port it over to the Unity game engine to allow it to run on games consoles. Why consoles? Well, from the start, Friend Shapes had been developed primarily as a multiplayer game, something that people can enjoy working through together, and multiplayer games just work better on consoles. Imagine trying to play Snipperclips with 2 people sharing a keyboard. Yeah, that wouldn't be great. Of course, back then they had no idea which console it would be released on. However, a certain console manufacturer whose name begins with Nin and ends with Tendo did have an idea. You see, a representative from Nintendo happened to be at the conference where this original trailer was shown off, and the representative felt the game would be perfect for a Nintendo system. They exchanged business cards, and before long it had been arranged formally that Nintendo would publish Friend Shapes for one of their consoles. At the time, the Vian brothers assumed their game would be released for the Wii U, as this was Nintendo's current home console. However, Nintendo were quite vague about this fact, and halfway through development, Nintendo called the team to their US headquarters in Redmond, Washington, for an important meeting. Friendshapes would not, as Nintendo had originally planned, be released for the Wii U. No, it would be released for Nintendo's new, upcoming home console, the Nintendo Switch. Although the team had heard rumblings of a new console being developed, this revelation no doubt came as quite a surprise. However, the more they heard about the Switch, the more they realised it was perfectly suited to Friendshapes. It was portable, meaning the player could easily meet up with others to play the game together, and more importantly, it had 2 controllers built into the console, allowing for an incredibly easy and intuitive multiplayer experience. After this point, development was fairly uneventful. The hardest part was meeting Nintendo's extremely high standards, specifically for polish. As it was one of the 3 launch titles published by Nintendo, it had to be a shining example of multiplayer on the Switch, and Nintendo weren't going to let them cut any corners, forgive the pun. This polish extended to every area of the game's development. The music, for example, was composed by Callum Bowen, better known online as Bo N. The soundtrack he composed is energetic, upbeat, and weird, and perfectly suited to the game. The title also changed at some point in development. It's not known whether this change was suggested by Nintendo or SFB Games, but it certainly changed to Snipperclips. And then, March 3rd arrived, as did Snipperclips Into the World. Critically, it was a success, being praised on its creativity and quirkiness, although it did receive some criticism for its shortness. However, sales were also high, with 350,000 copies being sold in its first month. Still, SFB Games weren't done. After watching people enjoy their game, they felt inspired to create some brand new levels, and on November 10th, Snipperclips Plus was released, an expansion to the original game with 2 new worlds plus a plethora of extra content. I think it's quite amazing to think that the entire Snipperclips game blossomed from a simple game jam. Snipperclips' simple controls have allowed many people who don't normally play games to be brought together and experience the joy of gaming. The Super Flash Bros have an incredible skill for taking a simple premise and fleshing it out into a really compelling, well thought out, and most importantly, fun game. As someone who grew up playing their Flash games, I have a great level of attachment to these developers. I can't wait to see what they make next. Hi there! Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope I did the game justice. Super Flash Bros hold a special place in my heart. As always, I really appreciate any comments, so if you have any thoughts or even just want to say hi, go ahead, comment away. If you enjoyed this video, maybe you'll enjoy some of the things I've made in the past, or in the future. Right, that's all from me. Bye!